Johnny Talk Sports, my Week 8 college football predictions. Week 7, another strong week, 8-2 overall, including getting the 2 bonus picks right. So I'm 50-20 on the year with no bonus picks. But with the bonus picks, I'm 57-21. So that's a really strong record to have 7 weeks into the season. The halfway point of college football being complete. That's a good record to have. So let's get momentum into Week 8. But first, let's get to my college football rankings. Now, a lot of shuffling and shambling last week. Clemson losing, Washington State, Auburn. Half the top 10 lost last week. So these top 4, there might be some controversy again. But number 1, I have Alabama. Number 2, I have Georgia. Those two, to me, seem like the best teams in college football right now. Georgia's been taking care of business. Both Alabama and Georgia have been taking care of business, probably better than anybody in college football. Georgia's basically showing no mercy against opponents. I know they had that one close game against Notre Dame, but still, a lot of teams that, if you want to win a national championship, you got to win the close games. And Georgia's won a close game already. In fact, a lot of teams had close games last week. So it just nullifies it out. Number 3, I have TCU. TCU's been getting it done all year long. They have such a great offense that we are forgetting about their defense. TCU knows to play some defense. One of the most underrated defenses in college football. And number 4, I have Penn State. Now, I know Penn State was number 2 in the AP poll, but in my poll, I kind of docked them a little bit because they didn't play last week. I know you could argue that it's not really fair, but still, Georgia's been taking care of business. TCU's been taking care of business, and Penn State was inches away from losing to Iowa. So that's kind of why I have Penn State at 4. The first 2 out, both in the Big Ten. I have Ohio State at 5 and Wisconsin at 6. Now, a lot of people can say that Wisconsin should be number 5, but the argument here is ever since Ohio State lost to Oklahoma, they've looked like one of the best teams in college football. They've looked like the team that could probably challenge Alabama. Maybe Ohio State could be one of those few teams that could challenge Alabama at the end of the year. Because we know what happened last time Alabama and Ohio State played each other. That was in the college football playoff, and Zeke Elliott ran over Alabama's defense. So if anybody can beat Nick Saban, that is not Dabo Swinney and Clemson, it's Urban Meyer and Ohio State. And with Wisconsin, they may be undefeated right now. They may have the golden ticket to the Big Ten title game, but I have not seen much out of that passing game of Alex Hornibrook. I mean, the running game of Jonathan Taylor is looking really good. And their defense is looking pretty solid. But I have not seen enough out of that quarterback play. I mean, to win a national championship, you have to have good play all over. You got to have good quarterback play. You got to have good running back play. You got to have good receiving play. You got to have good defensive play. Wisconsin has most of these things except for the quarterback play. Wisconsin's great quarterback play to really being a serious contender for a national championship. So let's get to the Week 8 picks. We've got 10 more games this week, including 2 more bonus picks. Let's quickly start off with the bonus picks. I've got Texas Tech over Iowa State, and I've got number 21 Auburn over Arkansas. Those are my 2 bonus picks for the week. And let's start off with the regular picks. Number 10 Oklahoma State versus Texas. Now, Texas really gave a good fight against Oklahoma in that Red River Showdown. But it just wasn't enough. They came up just short. But I'm picking Oklahoma State to win this one. I just feel like with all these one-loss teams now, such as Clemson, Washington State, I feel like that really brings them back into the picture. And I think Oklahoma State wins this matchup. It could be close than what everybody thinks, but I like the Cowboys to pull it out in the very end. Tennessee versus number 1 Alabama. Now, Tennessee has really wanted their coach, Butch Jones, fired for the longest time now. And honestly, this should be an easy win for Alabama. I'm picking Alabama to win, probably by about 40-45. It shouldn't really matter, because Alabama will stay number 1. Syracuse versus number 8 Miami, Florida. Now, Syracuse is coming off a big win against Clemson. Miami coming off kind of a struggle win against Georgia Tech. I know Syracuse is coming off that huge win, biggest win in your program's history, but I just feel like Miami's ready to play this week. I feel like after that close victory, they know they are still barely in it. In the last 2 weeks, they've gotten lucky, but to tell you the truth, Miami is due for a loss at some point this year in the regular season. I don't think it's going to be this week, though. I like Miami to win this matchup. I feel like Syracuse is having too much of an emotional victory over Clemson. So I like Miami to take advantage of that. Indiana versus number 18 Michigan State. I'm taking the Spartans in this one. The Spartans are really an underrated team as well. Nobody seems to be talking about them right now. But ever since they beat Michigan, they've been talking about them. Kind of a struggle winning against Minnesota, but to win a national championship, you got to win the close games. You got to win at least one or two close games to win the national championship. And I think Michigan State has fit that bill. So they could be championship contenders, but still got a long schedule to go. But I think Michigan State's going to win this one right here. Next, number 20 Central Florida versus Navy. Now, Central Florida is undefeated. They're in the hunt for that Group of 5 New Year's 6 automatic bowl bid. But I like Navy's triple option to pull off the upset here. Central Florida may be ranked number 20, but who have they really played in the Group of 5? Like, there's no Group of 5 teams that really just screams signature victory for Central Florida. And even if Central Florida went undefeated, there's no way they go to the College Football Playoff. And I'm taking Navy to pull off the upset. I feel like after Navy's loss to Memphis last week, it should really spark something in the midshipmen. So I will take Navy in this one. Number 9 Oklahoma versus Kansas State. I'm taking the Sooners in this one. Oklahoma knows they're still in it. Last week was going to be a huge test for Oklahoma. It was going to determine whether or not they're still in this college football playoff hunt or if their season was dead in the water. And last week, we may have saw a little bit of both. They had kind of a struggle win against Texas, but in rivalry games, they're always going to be close anyways. So I don't think that's going to affect the Sooners. I think Oklahoma wins by at least 13, 17 points in this matchup. I just like Baker Mayfield and that Sooners team to respond really well. They seem to respond to that adversity really well against Texas. And I like it to continue right here. And they still have to play TCU later in the season. So that will most likely determine a playoff spot. And they still have to play the Cowboys too. Next matchup, Kentucky versus Mississippi State. Now Kentucky is a quiet 5-1 this year. But it's really hard to win in Mississippi State's home field with the Cowbells. But I think Kentucky gets the win here. I just think Mississippi State has just struggled. Ever since that blowout loss to Georgia, Mississippi State just has not looked the same. But even though they're at home, and I said earlier this season that Mississippi State is a different team at home than they are on the road, I think Kentucky gets this win. Number 24 LSU versus Ole Miss. I'm taking LSU in this one. LSU's kind of messed up one of my picks each of the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to go against the Tigers 3 times. I'm taking LSU. Number 11 USC versus Notre Dame. Now this matchup is an elimination game for a spot in the college football playoff. Huge implications in this game. USC, they've been kind of overrated this year. And Notre Dame, only that 1-point loss to Georgia, who's now in the top 3. So we're probably 1 or 2 things going differently in that Georgia-Notre Dame game. Talk about Notre Dame possibly being a top 10 team. And I think the Irish get the win here. I just feel like USC has skated by the last couple of weeks. They've skated by against Texas. They've skated by against Western Michigan week 1. They skated by last week against Utah. They lost to Washington State. So USC could easily have about 3 losses this year already. So I'm picking the Irish to win this one. And finally, your game of the week, number 19 Michigan versus number 2 Penn State. Now this is going to be an interesting matchup. I see it's either being extremely low scoring or Penn State wins this by at least 14-17. Michigan may have that good defense, but their offense just isn't the same without quarterback Wilton Spate. They've had John O'Corn ever since the second half of the Purdue game, and Michigan's offense just has not looked the same. They lost to Michigan State at home, and they needed overtime to get past Indiana. I just think this is extreme dangerous waters for Michigan. I like Penn State to win this matchup. It could be closer than what the experts think, but as soon as it catches my eye, I think Penn State wins this by 14. I know Michigan's defense could be too strong to lose by 14, but it's that offense. Can that offense move the ball and keep probably the best player in college football right now in Saquon Barkley off the field. I don't know if they can get it done considering that John O'Gorman hasn't really proved himself as that quarterback yet. So I like Penn State to win by double digits in this matchup. So those are my picks for the week. That's all I have for you this week. Like and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your friends and family. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful night, everybody.